This is Nezha 2, a film from China that's breaking box office records right now. It's on track to become one of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time, among other records being shattered. So let's talk about it. Is it a real deal or is this some hype fake moment from China? Now, this is the sequel to the 2019 animation film by the same director, same studio, called Nezha, Demon Kid is Born. The story itself is based on the Chinese classic novel Investiture of the Gods, or the personal translation that I really like is The Legend of the Making of Gods. When I was a little kid, first time seeing Nezha as an animation cartoon, I remember going out and finding the longest stick I had for his spear and trying to find like a hula hoop as the circle of the universe, and then also, using roller skates as his wheels of flames. So first of all, let's talk about the good stuff, right? The animation is really good, and if you just watch the films without any of the outside stuff that we're going to talk about today, the plotline was pretty good. In that it's a good film and it's well animated, and the studios put in a lot of work to get this done. So that's appreciated. And as a fan of Nezha as a child and as an adult, watching all of the content around this character being one of my favorite from that novel, I thoroughly enjoyed the portrayal of Nezha as a character through modern technology and on the big screen. So let's talk about the bad about this. One of the biggest criticisms I have of the film itself is the uglification and the villainization of Nezha as a character, which strays far from it. Now this, of course, the studio is essentially repeating what Black Myth Wukong did, is to darken or to make a darker interpretation of the original or the classics. And so I personally hate that, but I'll leave that to the second half of the video, so to focus on the movie, I guess the cultural side of the movie. But first, let's talk about the funny stuff. Like I said, the story itself is very enjoyable for first-time viewers, but any deeper look at the plotline, you'll find a lot of irony to what's being supported by the Chinese audience and the Chinese government right now. Whether we like it or not, Nezha 2 has become another nationalism symbol in China, and it's generating a movement. People are calling this raising the flag. I'll explain in just a bit. But it's funny because the irony in the movie, the plot of Nezha and Nezha 2 is the fact that he says that his own life is determined by himself, not by the heavens, right? Meaning that he wants to control his life in his own hands. But the idea of Chinese people supporting that is hilarious because not long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, during COVID, Chinese people literally were forced to take mandatory daily COVID testings. Yeah, so much for personal freedom, right?
还打招呼呢。哎，真做核酸来了。做核酸。做核酸了。
Which makes me wonder why. I don't get the hype around this film being one that's turned into a nationalism movement in China, because simply the reality is that what Nezha can do in the film, Chinese people simply cannot. His entire identity in the film is breaking the rules that's been set around him and breaking the expectations that he was told, and then some more. And yet in here we see that people seems to support something that they cannot achieve.
哪吒踩稳你的风火轮，我这就8个亿加急去给你100亿补贴，你就卯足了劲儿冲100亿票房，你身后是无数个一生要钱的中国人。我们生的不是电影榜单，我们生的是我们民族的文化自信。
Right now in China, if you search anywhere, there's a uniform voice telling you to go see this movie, to spend money to watch it 2, 3, 4 times, and to generate all of the revenue to break the records at the box office so that it can show up as a pure numbers game. And that, of course, because China's sheer amount of population that they have, 1 billion people, they can really technically get any record numbers, record-breaking numbers actually. Just see what happened with Black Myth Wukong. Most of its player bases were from China, so of course they made a lot of sales, yes, but that's not because there was a global, sensational, or critically acclaimed sort of situation going on. With Nezha 2, most of its box office sales have come from domestic audience so far, and its international performance, as of course we expect, to not be as strong as that in China. But just to say that this movie has now become something that they're proud of, it's really weird because I see it like this, right? Avatar 2, really good, sold a lot, people watched it. I didn't like it. I didn't even go watch the second one. But it would be weird for Americans to claim that James Cameron is their stepdad, or that they themselves made $1 billion out of it too, right? Or that they feel proud to be an American because of films like Avatar and Avatar 2. It does well domestically because people think this is the most patriotic thing they can do, and that's what the government is hinting at doing. Go see the film, support the film, and that's how you love China. It's even funnier because there was an actual film that premiered just a little bit earlier than Nezha 2 called Operation Leviathan. It's about Chinese nuclear submarines. It's an actual propaganda film made for the purpose of propagandizing the masses that bombed at the box office. It was so overwhelming, they took the film out of the theater, and I guess they're now going all in on supporting Nezha 2 as the next, big export push of propaganda. Some people are calling this the new racing lane of Chinese nationalism. Now, I have to repeat myself, right? The film itself, by itself, is a good film. I liked it. But then when you add in all of the extra nationalism stuff packed to the brim, that's when things start to turn sour. Okay, let's briefly talk about Operation Leviathan too, because it's pretty funny what happens. During the promotional season for the film, it was such a flop because they said that apparently while they were filming this movie, the actors had to secretly read the scripts, and whenever a foreign actor was on set, they had to quickly put it away because it contained Chinese nuclear submarine secrets, and that a lot of the scripts had to be written on pieces of paper rather than be given the full thing because they didn't want the secrets to be leaked out. And so a lot of the internet users were poking fun at this, saying that, oh, in order to preserve the secrets, maybe we should just not go see the film at all to keep your submarine secrets a secret. And so it did happen. When the film premiered during Chinese New Year, it flopped. It did not do well at the box office. And people were saying, yeah, we kept our secrets. We didn't go see the film to make sure that our national identity and national secrets with nuclear submarines are not leaking to the hands of the public. And apparently there was a scene during the movie that their submarine was damaged, and everybody was trying to figure out how to overcome the situation when some officer took out a harmonica and everybody started to sing CCP songs, and then magically a few frames later, the issues were resolved. That's how ridiculous that was. So no wonder why it flopped. But I think this is a unique opportunity because I think the CCP started to recognize their lack of soft power exports, right? Korea has K-pop or K-drama. Japan has anime and everything about Japan that's really cool. China doesn't have a lot prior to things like Black Myth Wukong or Chat CCP or now Nezha 2. So they're hopping onto every opportunity for a quality film to kind of ride along with it, right? And that's where really things, like if the film by itself was just an organic appearance, that's fine. But whenever something like that happens, they always tie it to nationalism, and it just turns things, leaves a really bad taste in your mouth when you do go watch it and realize that, oh yeah, by the way, there's something hidden between this film that if it does well, it's because there's a deliberate push to get that done. Don't believe me? Well, there's literally company notices that people have put online of them getting a group outing for people, for the workers, to go see Nezha 2 as a company event. Or you have people who are literally buying up hundreds of tickets for people to hand out for free to give to them to go see the movie. You also have people who've seen the movie like 4 or 5 times already, just so that they can support it. They got a dozen of their family members to come see the movie. So that's why I think the whole $1.5 billion in sales is kind of sus, because this is not people who actually enjoy the film to go, wanted to go see it, buy tickets themselves. It's people who are saying, we have to reach this goal of selling how many tickets. We have to beat how many numbers of movies ahead of us. And that's why they're calling this the flag raising event, because you're literally pushing the film with the Chinese flag, trying to push that into top 10. So you're literally raising the flag. And it's even hilarious because some theaters have suspended the premiere of Captain America Brave New World, which just premiered over the weekend in some of the theaters in China, in order for them to defend the records of Nezha, which is hilarious because, same thing's not being done overseas, where both Nezha and Captain America can be seen. But Cap 4 is getting a huge wave of boycotts on Chinese social media, especially on Weibo, saying that, no, you need to support Chinese nationalism, go see Nezha 2, don't go see Cap 4. It's so wild. And one person really just pointed this out, saying that even your numbers, you just have the sheer population for this. And so you getting on the ranking chart is kind of cheating your way in, right? But then another comment follow says, I've already reported you to the spy agencies because it's so easy to catch who is the spy when they comment things like this on Nezha 2. Can you believe that? You offering any deviation of what's being mainstream in China right now, which is that Nezha 2 is a must-see, you're apparently a spy. I have to say this. The film was cool. It was great. It was a good watch, but it wasn't like fantastic. Again, I have to bring up this point. Does Avatar and Avatar 2 success mean that you personally as an American are better off than you were before the movie? Or the fact that if you went to see the Avengers 5 times, which I did, does that mean I am also a part of the success of the Avengers movie production? No. And also, it's even more ridiculous if you think about this. When Frozen was released, that animation film from Disney, did you think that, oh wow, America is now the best in the world? Our animations are breaking like records. We're shattering technological differences around the world. No, like it's just a cool film. You watch it and you talk about it with your family, and that's it. You don't tie it to American nationalism or American exceptionalism, right? It's so weird. It's like, do you go around every day and being like, wow, I'm so happy that Apple and Google are dominating the global markets in technology. I'm so proud to be an American because of that. No, that's literally not how things work, but apparently that's what happens in China. Okay, so let's talk about some of the deeper side to this film, right? First of all is the ability for the film to pass the censorship apparatus, because in China, before you release any digital content or entertainment content, it has to go through the censorship bureau. The fact that they allow this means at some level, the film fits the current agenda for propaganda. Like I mentioned, it either recognizes that there's a lack of efficient or really high quality soft power exports, or that some level of this film meets the needs of propagandizing for the mass in its plot lines or whatnot, right? So there are certain aspects to this film that fits the agenda at the time, so that's why it's allowed to go public. But my point again is the fact that it's destroying the classics of China, the traditional values of China, the traditional view of these beings that appear in the characters as characters in the books. So for example, with Nezha, right? The Nezha that I remember as a child and many kids in China look up to is this childhood idol, somebody who is young, powerful, fights for the justice and fights for the good, right? The idea of good versus evil is very apparent in Chinese classical literatures, especially the fact that China, for most of its traditional culture and through the 5,000 years of history, has believed and has been revering the deities, these gods in the heavens, because there is a huge respect for divine, right? A huge respect for divine, and that good versus evil, the good side, which is represented by the divine, versus the demonic side, which is represented by, demons and spirits and the evils of the world. So that clear idea is now being destroyed under the CCP because they want to blur the line. Right? In this film, you see this a lot. If you haven't seen it, go see it, but you'll see what I'm talking about. They try to blur the line between good, bad, between demons, divine beings, ghosts, humans, and whatever else, right? The idea is that, oh, we're not supposed to know what is true good and true evil. We're supposed to, carve out a path for ourselves. Well, kids today are not being taught what is traditionally the good and the traditionally the bad, right? They're simply being taught that everything is flexible and everything is up for interpretation. Well, I think that's really bad because you need to know the original story or the classics before you can go on to explore, what is exactly that of the new twisted version. Now, provided, I have to say that to be fair, even the 1979 animation film Nezha Stirs the Sea is a deviation from the classic novel, but still, they kept the original essence of the good versus evil. The investiture of gods, or the legend of making of gods, throughout its series has a special chapter dedicated to Nezha because he's a very special character. In the original novel, actually, Nezha is somebody who is very selfish, self-centered, because he knew that he was powerful and important. He's very arrogant, actually, in the first part of his character growth. But later, he had killed many beings in the oceans, etc. He realized out of guilt and shame, that's when he committed Sudoku. And then later, his spiritual body was revived by the Buddha, and he gained what's called the lotus body. And he essentially later ascended into godhood after the novel of investiture of the gods. But the idea of Nezha was one of growth, a positive growth, a change, right? But in the new films, what they're doing now is they're reversing that. They're saying that Nezha was promised something or was expecting something, he didn't get it, and now he has turned into a demonic kid. And he's just, he's trying to do what he thinks is going to change his own life, his own destiny. So that part, I really think that this whole vilification or the villainization of characters is very bad for, it's destroying the classics in my view. And so what I'm really speaking about is a broader situation in China. Since the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s and 70s, the CCP has systematically destroyed people's view of traditional culture, of traditional values, morals, and of teaching those values. That's why in China, I highlight all of these societal problems. They are, by extension, a lack of morals and a lack of tradition. And this issue is very much a widespread phenomenon across China. There's so many bad things. The embrace of this hyper-materialistic view in China, all of that is because of the Cultural Revolution. And so this is a good time to mention an opportunity for you, if you're really interested, like I am, with Chinese traditional culture and history, to go see Shen Yun Performing Arts. Every year I go, and by the way, this is not a sponsored video, because I have to disclose that if it is sponsored, but I'm not being sponsored. So I just recommend this because, it's a classical Chinese dance performance, but you get to witness some of the important historical stories of heroes and legends, and there are even performances sometimes about some of the classic novel characters. And on stage for 2 hours, you really get to learn a lot about Chinese culture and those that were lost from the CCP's takeover. That's why their slogan is called China Before Communism. It's really true. No matter what you've heard about the show, go see it yourself. You have to at least watch it once for yourself to decide whether you think this is really authentic or not, and let me know. But I do go every single year, and if you are in the New York area, they're coming on March 26th. Otherwise, just go on shenyun.com/tickets, and you can find the closest theater near you and their respective date for the performance. So check out that link in the description. And again, I'm just trying to think a way for you to understand what I'm talking about. When you haven't seen what's traditional Chinese culture, you might think that, oh yeah, what's being portrayed in Black Myth and in Nezha is the real China, but that's far from it. And I think that's a deliberate attempt by the CCP to vilify what is traditional in order for them to say that, hey, this is what's supposed to be authentic. But in reality, it's far from that. And I'm sure many of you understand that, right? Communism doesn't play well with religion, doesn't play well with traditional values. Its core value is supposed to be the destruction of the existing society in order to create a utopia, but we've never seen that come to fruition or be successful. So in turn, a lot of misery instead. And that's just some of my thoughts surrounding Nezha 2 and the film. If you haven't seen the film yet, go see it for yourself and decide, and let me know in the comments if you agree with what I said today. And yeah, we'll see you next time. All right, thanks for watching China Insider. Like, subscribe, comment below your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.